clock struck 12. Midnight in Redwater, Texas, 1889. Rain hammered the tin roof of Murphy's Pawn and Loan like 1,000 angry fists. The only light came from a single kerosene lamp swinging above the counter, throwing long shadows across shelves of broken dreams. Rusty spurs, cracked pocket watches, a child's wooden horse with one eye missing. Eliza Jane Harlow, 23, 8 months heavy with child, stood soaked to the bone. Her late husband's coat, 2 sizes too big, hung on her like a ghost. Her dark hair was plastered to her cheeks. Her hands trembled as she placed the last thing of value on the scarred oak counter, her wedding ring. Plain gold, scratched from years of ranch work, but still warm from her finger. Mr. Murphy, the pawnbroker, didn't even look up from his ledger. $3, he grunted, pushing 3 crumpled bills across the counter without meeting her eyes. Take it or leave it. Streets are full of widows these days. Eliza's fingers hovered over the money. $3. Enough for 2 weeks of beans and milk. Enough to keep her unborn baby alive until she found work. She swallowed the lump in her throat. It's all I have left of him, she whispered, voice cracking like dry earth. Murphy shrugged. Gold's gold. Ring's a ring. Ain't no room for sentiment in Redwater. She reached for the bills. The bell above the door jingled. A man stepped in from the storm, tall, broad, soaked through. His Confederate greatcoat was patched a dozen times. A jagged scar ran from his left eyebrow to his jaw, white against sun-dark skin. His hat dripped on the floorboards. He didn't speak, just walked straight to the counter, boots thudding like slow heartbeats. Eliza stepped aside, clutching her coat tighter around her belly. The stranger placed a Colt revolver on the counter, pearl handle, well-oiled. How much? His voice was gravel and smoke. Murphy's eyes lit up. 25, maybe 30. The stranger nodded once. Then his gaze dropped to the wedding ring sitting alone under the lamp. Something flickered in his storm-gray eyes. He picked it up, turned it in his calloused fingers. Read the inscription inside. E&T forever. Eliza's breath caught. Please, that's not for sale anymore. The stranger didn't look at her. He just slid $3 silver across the counter, exact change for what Murphy had offered. Took the ring, dropped it into his coat pocket, then walked out into the rain without a word. Eliza stood frozen. The pawnbroker snatched the silver dollars. Guess you're walking home empty-handed, Mrs. Harlow. She ran out after the stranger. Rain slashed her face. Lightning cracked the sky white. Wait, she shouted. That's mine! You can't just... He was already 20 yards down the muddy street, coat flapping like broken wings. She sank to her knees in the mud, sobbing so hard her belly hurt. The baby kicked hard as if saying, don't give up. 2 hours later. 2:17 a.m. Eliza sat on the wooden bench outside the closed general store, shivering under the overhang. Rain still poured. Her feet were numb. She had nowhere to go. The boarding house had turned her out last week. Hoofbeats, slow, deliberate. A horse stopped in front of her. The same stranger. He dismounted. Water streamed from his hat. He didn't speak. Just reached into his pocket. Pulled out the wedding ring. Held it out. Eliza stared, tears mixing with rain. I can't buy it back. He took her left hand, gentle despite the scars, slid the ring back onto her finger. It fit perfect, like it had never left. Then he looked her in the eyes for the first time. Voice low, steady. That ring never belonged in a pawn shop. It belongs on my wife. Thunder rolled. Eliza's mouth opened. No sound came out. He offered his hand. Name's Caleb Reed. I got a ranch 20 miles west. Roof don't leak much. Got a stove. Got a bed. You and that baby. You're coming home. She stared at the ring on her finger. Then at the man who'd just given her back her past. And maybe her future. Lightning flashed again. In that white light, she saw his eyes. Storm gray, but soft at the edges. She took his hand. He lifted her onto the horse like she weighed nothing. Climbed up behind her. Wrapped his coat around them both. As they rode out of Redwater, the rain began to ease. The first star appeared in the clearing sky. Eliza leaned back against his chest. Whispered the first words she'd spoken in weeks. Thank you. Caleb Reed just tightened his arm around her and the child she carried. And for the first time in 2 years, Eliza Jane Harlow fell asleep feeling safe. The horse plodded through the storm like a slow heartbeat. Rain had turned to a steady drum on Caleb's coat. Eliza clung to the saddle horn, her belly pressed against the wet leather, every jolt sending a sharp reminder. 8 months. Any day now. Caleb's arm stayed locked around her waist, strong, steady, warm. He hadn't spoken since Redwater. Just guided the horse west, toward the black silhouette of the Guadalupe Mountains. Lightning forked across the sky. In that flash, Eliza saw the ranch for the first time. A low adobe house with a sagging porch, a windmill spinning wild, a corral with 2 sway-backed horses watching them like ghosts. Caleb dismounted first. Reached up, caught her as she slid down, hands gentle under her arms. Her feet touched mud. The baby kicked hard. She gasped, "You hurt?" His voice cut through the rain. "No. Just..." He's impatient. She tried to smile. Failed. He nodded once. Led her inside. The house smelled of pine smoke and coffee. One big room. Stone fireplace crackling. A table made from wagon wheels. A single bed in the corner with a patchwork quilt. Faded red and white squares, hand-stitched. Caleb lit a second lantern. Hung his coat. Turned to her. "You eat today?" She shook her head. He moved fast. Pulled a cast-iron pot from the hearth. Ladled thick venison stew into a tin bowl. Cut a chunk of cornbread. Set it on the table. Pulled out the only chair. "Sit." Eliza sat. Her hands shook so hard the spoon rattled. She ate. First bite. Second. Tears came again. This time from flavor, from warmth, from the simple fact that someone cared if she starved. Caleb watched from the doorway, arms crossed. Scar catching the firelight like a silver river. When the bowl was empty, he spoke. "That bed's yours." "Clean sheets. I'll take the floor." Eliza looked at the quilt. This was someone's?" "My mother's. She made it before she passed. Never had a daughter to give it to." He paused. Till now, silence stretched. Rain softened to a whisper on the tin roof. Eliza stood, walked to him. Reached up, touched the scar on his face, light as a moth. "Why?" She whispered. "Why me?" Caleb's jaw worked. He looked away. Then back. 4 years ago, Shiloh. I held my wife while she bled out. Childbirth. Doctor too drunk to come. I couldn't save her. Couldn't save the boy. His voice cracked like old leather. Buried them both on the hill. That ring. When I saw it on the counter, it looked just like hers. Same scratch on the inside. Same promise. He took a breath. I ain't asking for love, Eliza. I'm asking for a chance. To be the man I couldn't be then. To give that baby a father. To give you a home. Not charity. Partnership. He dropped to one knee in the dirt floor. Pulled a small velvet pouch from his pocket. Opened it. Inside, a tiny gold band, newer, with a single chip of diamond. I traded my Colt for this. In Redwater. Before I came back, Eliza's hand flew to her mouth. Eliza Jane Harlow. Will you let me put this ring next to the one you never should have sold? Will you let me be your husband? And that baby's father? Thunder rolled soft now, like distant applause. She stared at the 2 rings on her finger. Old and new. Past and future. Then she did something she hadn't done in 2 years. She laughed, a real laugh, small, rusty, but alive. Yes, she said. Yes, Caleb Reed, I will. He slid the diamond ring on. It fit perfect beside the old one. He stood, pulled her into his arms, held her like she was made of glass and steel at the same time. Outside, the rain stopped. A sliver of moon broke through the clouds. Inside, Eliza laid her head on his chest. Listened to his heartbeat, strong, steady, alive, and for the first time since her husband died, she wasn't afraid of tomorrow, that night. Caleb slept on the floor with his coat for a pillow. Eliza slept in the bed, under his mother's quilt, one hand on her belly, the other on the 2 rings that now told a new story. At 3:47 a.m., the first pain hit, not a kick, a contraction, hard, real. Eliza sat up, gasped. Caleb was on his feet in a second. It's time? She nodded, eyes wide. He didn't hesitate. Lit every lantern. Boiled water. Laid clean towels. Another contraction. Closer. Eliza gripped his hand so hard her nails drew blood. Stay with me, she panted. Don't leave me. Never, he said. Not ever again. Lightning flashed one last time. The storm had passed. But inside the little adobe house, a new storm was just beginning, and Caleb Reed, the man who couldn't save his first family, was about to fight for his second. 4:03 a.m. The storm had quieted to a low growl outside. But inside the adobe house it roared like Gettysburg. Eliza lay on the bed. Sweat-soaked hair stuck to her face, knuckles white around Caleb's hand. Another contraction ripped through her, harder, faster. She screamed, raw, animal, the sound echoing off the stone walls. Caleb knelt beside her, sleeves rolled high, forearms corded with old war scars. His voice stayed calm even as his eyes betrayed terror. "Breathe, darlin'. In through the nose, out through the mouth. Like the wind through the cottonwoods." Eliza tried. Failed. Screamed again. "Water broke," she gasped. "It's coming now." Caleb moved like a soldier under fire, grabbed the clean towels, boiled rags, poured whiskey on his hands, antiseptic, the only kind he had. He lifted her nightgown just enough. "Saw the crown. Head's right there, Eliza. One more big push." "You hear me? You're the strongest woman I ever met. Do it for him." She bore down. Veins stood out on her neck, face red. Teeth clenched. Nothing. Another contraction. Again. Caleb barked, voice cracking for the first time. She pushed. A guttural roar that would have scared wolves. The head came. Shoulders. A tiny, slippery body slid into Caleb's waiting hands at 4:17 a.m. exactly. Silence. Dead silence. The baby didn't cry. Caleb's heart stopped. He flipped the child upside down, old midwife trick. Patted the back firm, once, twice, a cough. Then the loudest, angriest wail Redwater had ever heard. A boy. Perfect. 10 fingers. 10 toes. Lungs like a steam engine. Caleb wrapped him in the cleanest towel. Laid him on Eliza's chest. She sobbed. Laughter and tears mixed. He's here." Caleb cut the cord with his Bowie knife, hands shaking so hard he nearly dropped it. Tied it off with twine, then he did something. No one in Redwater would have believed. The scarred, ex-Confederate soldier. The man who hadn't cried since. Shiloh dropped to his knees beside the bed. Tears cut clean trails through the sweat and blood. On his face, he reached out one trembling finger, touched the baby's tiny fist. The fist opened, closed around Caleb's finger like it had always belonged there. "Hey, little man," Caleb whispered, voice breaking into 1,000 pieces. "I'm your pa." The baby stopped crying. Looked right at him with unfocused, storm-gray eyes, same color as Caleb's. Eliza watched through tears. "Say it again," she begged. Caleb looked up. Met her eyes. "I'm your pa," he said louder, stronger. "And you, Eliza Reed, you're my wife. This is our son, our family, and I'll spend every damn day proving it." He leaned over, kissed her forehead. Then the babies. Outside, the sky cracked open. First light of dawn painted the mountains pink. Inside, the fire settled into warm embers. Eliza fell asleep holding her son. Caleb sat in the rocking chair all night, rifle across his lap, just in case the world tried to take them again. But the world didn't come. 3 days later, Reverend Holt rode out from town. Married them proper under the cottonwood tree. Eliza wore her old Sunday dress, belly still swollen, ring finger shining with 2 bands now. Caleb wore his only clean shirt. Scar-proud in the sunlight, they named the boy Thomas Reed, after Eliza's late husband. After Caleb's promise to honor the past while building the future, word spread fast. Redwater talked for months. The widow who sold her ring at midnight. Married the devil of Shiloh Creek. But when they saw Caleb carrying baby Thomas in a sling while fixing fences, when they saw Eliza laughing again, hair loose in the wind, tongues went quiet. Love has a way of shutting mouths. Spring turned to summer. Thomas grew fat on goat's milk and sunshine. Caleb built a cradle from mesquite wood. Carved tiny horses on the sides. Eliza sewed curtains from flour sacks. Planted roses by the door. One evening, Caleb came in from the range covered in dust. Found Eliza at the table, ring glinting as she rocked Thomas. He knelt. Pulled something from his pocket, a 3rd ring. Gold, with a small diamond he'd panned himself from the creek, slid it onto her finger beside the other 2. "Now it's complete," he said. She kissed him, long, slow, like they had all the time in the world, because they did, and high on the hill behind the ranch. 2 graves stayed quiet. Eliza's first husband, Caleb's first wife and son. They weren't forgotten. They were at peace. Because love doesn't replace, it multiplies. Summer 1899, 10. Years gone like a hot wind across the plains. The little adobe house had grown. 2 extra rooms, whitewashed walls, roses climbing the porch like they'd always belonged. The windmill sang steady. The corral held 6 strong horses now. A swing hung from the cottonwood where Caleb and Eliza once said, "I do." Thomas Reed, 10 years old, sun-browned freckles across his nose, storm-gray eyes exactly like the man he called nothing yet, was chasing chickens with a stick. Laughing wild, Eliza watched from the porch. Apron over her Sunday dress, second baby on her hip. Little Mary, 7, with her mother's dark hair and her father's scarless grin. Caleb rode in from the North Range, hat low, shirt soaked with sweat. He'd struck gold again, small vein in the creek, but he never talked money. Just came home every night. He dismounted. Thomas ran full speed. The boy stopped 2 feet away. Shuffled boots in the dust. Never called him anything. Not Pa, not Caleb, just Sir Caleb knelt. Eye level. You catch that hen yet, soldier? Thomas shook his head. She's faster than me. Everything's faster when you're chasing instead of leading. Caleb smiled. Rare, wide, real. Come here. He opened his arms. Thomas hesitated, then crashed into them like a comet. Caleb lifted him high, spun once, set him on the porch rail. Eliza's heart stopped. She knew what was coming. Thomas looked down at the man who'd delivered him at 4 a.m. in a thunderstorm, who'd taught him to rope, to ride, to read the stars, who'd never missed a bedtime story, even after branding 50 head. The boy's lip trembled. I made you something. He pulled a folded paper from his pocket. Crayon drawing, stick figure family under a rainbow. 3 people, one tall with a scar, one with long hair, one small with a hat too big. At the bottom, in wobbly letters, My Pia Caleb. Caleb took it like it was the declaration itself. Eyes wet. Thomas. His voice cracked like dry creek bed. The boy threw his arms around Caleb's neck. I love you. Pa. 2 words, 10 years coming. Caleb's knees buckled. He sank to the porch, holding Thomas so tight the boy squeaked. Eliza cried silent. Mary clapped. Even the horses nickered like they understood. Caleb buried his face in his son's hair. I waited 10 years to hear that, son. Worth every damn second. That night after supper, pinto beans, cornbread, peach cobbler from the tree Eliza planted the week Thomas was born. Caleb did something he'd planned for years. He led Eliza and the kids to the hill behind the house. 2 graves there. One small, one smaller. His first wife. His first son. He'd never brought Thomas before. Now he knelt. Placed the crayon drawing on the smaller stone. See these, son? This was my first family. They're watching us. Always will be. Thomas laid a wildflower bouquet. Hi, big brother. Caleb's throat worked. He pulled a small velvet box from his pocket. Inside, the original wedding ring, now reset with the diamond from 10 years ago, plus a new ruby, blood red. For the night Thomas was born, he turned to Eliza. Eliza Reed, you gave me a second chance at life, at love, at family. He dropped to one knee, same as 10 years ago, but this time in daylight, with their children watching. Will you marry me? Again? In front of God, our babies, and the whole damn sky? Eliza laughed through tears. Yes, 1,000 times yes. He slid the renewed ring on. Kissed her like the first time. Hungry, reverent, eternal. Thomas whooped. Mary danced. The sun set gold and ruby behind them. Later, under the stars, Caleb taught Thomas his first constellation. Orion the Hunter. That's you, Pa? Thomas asked. No, son. That's us. Father and son. Forever. Eliza watched from the porch. Hand on her belly. She was 6 weeks along with number 3. She touched the 3-stone ring. Old gold. Diamond. Ruby. Past. Present. Future. And high on the hill. 4 souls smiled down. Love doesn't replace, it builds bigger tables. Summer, 1904. 15 years since the midnight ring. The ranch wasn't a ranch anymore. It was an empire, 2,000 acres of prime Texas grassland. A white 2-story house with wraparound porch. A schoolhouse Caleb built for the ranch kids. A church bell he salvaged from a burned mission. Redwater folks called it Reed's Promise. Thomas Reed, 15 now, tall as his pa, same scarless grin, was breaking a wild Mustang in the corral, shirtless, sweat shining like diamonds. Mary, 12, braided hair flying, raced him on her mare. The third child, Ruth, 8, red curls and freckles, cheered from the fence. Eliza stood on the porch in a blue calico dress, 38 and more beautiful than the day Caleb first saw her cry in the rain. She was rocking on the swing, hand on the 3-stone ring that had started everything. Caleb rode up on Buck, older now, but still proud. His hair had gone silver at the temples, scars softened by years of laughter. He dismounted slow. War wounds caught up eventually, but his eyes still burned storm-gray fire. He walked straight to Eliza, kissed her like they were still 23 and terrified. Evening. Mrs. Reed. Evening, Mr. Reed. Kids wore you out yet? Not till I'm in the ground. Thomas vaulted the fence. Pa, watch this! He roped a steer clean at 30 yards. Hat flew off in triumph. Caleb's chest swelled. He whistled sharp. That's my boy. That night, after supper, after stories, after tucking Ruth in with her rag doll named Midnight, Caleb took Eliza's hand. One more thing. He led her to the hill. 4 graves now. His first family. Eliza's first husband. A tiny stone for the baby they lost between Mary and Ruth. But tonight, something new. A 5th stone. Fresh carved granite. Still blank, Caleb pulled a chisel and hammer from his saddlebag. Your turn, darling. Write our story. Eliza took the tools, hands steady. She carved slow, deep, sure D. Reed family. Love bought at midnight. Paid for in blood, sweat, and joy. 889, forever. She stepped back. Tears fell, but she was smiling. Caleb wrapped his arms around her from behind, rested his chin on her shoulder. 15 years ago, I put a ring on your finger in the rain. Thought I was saving you. He turned her to face him. You saved me, Eliza Reed. Every damn day. She kissed him, slow, deep, like the first time, like the last time. Below them, the ranch lights twinkled. 20 families now lived on Reed land. Kids Thomas and Mary taught to read, widows Caleb hired, orphans he gave beds. Above them, the stars burned bright. Thomas and Mary joined them on the hill, Ruth on Caleb's hip, 5 silhouettes against the Texas sky. Caleb spoke soft, for only his family to hear. I was a dead man walking till that night in the pawn shop. God gave me a second chance in the shape of a crying widow and a wedding ring. He looked at Thomas. Son, you called me Pa at 10. Best day of my life, at Mary. You made me a girl, Dad. Taught me gentle, at Ruth. You made me young again, at Eliza. And you? You made me believe love doesn't die. It just waits for the right storm to bring it home. He raised his voice to the heavens. To the ones on this hill who didn't make it, watch over us. We're doing all right. Then he pulled a small box from his pocket. Inside, 4 simple gold bands, 1 for each child. 1 for Eliza. 1 for himself, engraved inside. Reed, born 4:17 a.m., 1889. He slipped them on every finger. Now we're official. Forever ain't just a word. It's a promise. Thomas hugged him fierce. Mary buried her face in Eliza's dress. Ruth giggled and kissed Caleb's scar. The wind carried their laughter down the valley. Redwater never forgot the story. They still tell it in the saloon. The church, the school, how a pregnant widow sold her ring at midnight, how a broken soldier bought it back, how a baby born at 4:17 a.m. in thunder taught 2 shattered hearts to beat again, how love doesn't replace, it builds empires. Outro, voiceover, slow, deep, Matthew style. She sold her ring for survival. He bought it for redemption. Together, they built forever. If love can be reborn in rain, hit like if family isn't blood. Subscribe. Ring the bell. Next Thursday, 8 p.m. EST, another heart explodes. Next, he found a half-dead girl in the desert. She woke up calling him Daddy. Reed's promise still stands. The porch swing still rocks. The ring still shines. Love doesn't end. It multiplies. See you in the next storm.